Sometimes assessment becomes an appendix to learning, a label stuck on a product long after the learning process. When students assess themselves or each other, assessment is suddenly an important, useful, and even fun learning activity. Starting with peer review can be scary, maybe even more so in an online course. Make it less threatening by starting with good examples from previous students, either anonymized or with their consent, or made by yourself. Tips on how to start with peer assessment. State the learning goals and the criteria for the assessment. Give the students an example project, for example, a written text to assess. Discuss it together. How does the text match the criteria? When the students are happy with the assessment, discuss how to give feedback. Ask them questions like, how would you like to hear? What does constructive language look like? What is a good balance between positive and negative feedback? Should the students also be encouraged to use emojis, sound files, videos? If necessary, provide the students with pre-made examples on good and bad feedback. The next step could be to discuss if criteria matches the learning goals. We would recommend giving the students the learning goals, criteria, and the product to be assessed in advance. Then have the discussion in the classroom, the webinar, or in a discussion forum moderated by the teacher. To move the process up to the next step, create the criteria together. When the students are ready to assess each other, it's good policy to always start with creating the criteria together to give all students a deep understanding of both their learning goals, learning activity, and learning assessment. Here is a good example of a rubric. The students are to perform a role play. There are 4 different aspects to be assessed, read from top down: accuracy and believability of role, clarity of speech, expression of body language, and knowledge gained. And there are 4 levels, or grades if you please, read from left to right. 4 by 4 is probably the maximum of rubrics. For younger children, 1 aspect and 2, 3 levels might be enough. But on the other hand, we never underestimate children's ability to perform good assessment. In each square is a clear description of what that aspect on that level should look like. In this example, the assessor looks for certain qualities, and it is the frequency of which they occur that determines what level the assessed student is on. This example is from Nova Scotia, and you can find the link with the other resources to this topic. You can let each student assess at least 2 of their pairs. They get more practice, and that also means they receive 2 sets of feedback. Some decisions will need to be made by the teacher or students together. Should assessment be open for everyone to see, or should only the teacher, the assessor, and the assessed have access? Should the assessment be 100% structured, for example in a rubric, or should it also be more general and informal comments? In theory, with good understanding of the topic, good criteria, and some practicing in the art of giving feedback, the students should be able to take care of the assessment, but we recommend that the teacher guides in the process and provides a final assessment. Surveys show that the teacher's comments mean a lot to students of all ages, and assessing assessment is a good way for the teachers to evaluate the learning process of their students. When students assess themselves, clear criteria and rubrics are good tools too. But instead of only assessing the product, self-assessment should leave room for students to reflect on their own thinking and how they learn. The first question the student could ask themselves is, did I understand this? Some teachers make the students reflect several times in one lesson or module, for example, after the introduction of a new topic or concept, either by using a poll online, vote clear or muddy, or raising the hands in a physical classroom, thumb up if clear, thumb down if muddy. Another way to help the students assess their own learning is to ask them 3 questions from the lesson or topic and give them 3 minutes to think, and then provide them with the answer or suggestions. In a physical or online classroom, everybody does this together. In an asynchronous course, you can use the quiz tool with the type your answer alternative and helpful hints on the provided answers. Unexperienced students could get structured questions with right or wrong answers, but more experience in evaluating own knowledge means they can answer more complex questions, and then the 3x3 model is also more flexible. A bit more complex is a reflection note. That is where the student reflects on their own learning process. It can be used after a session, a topic, or in connection with an assignment. It can be structured or unstructured. Some questions that are good for reflection. What were my expectations for this topic or task? What did I already know? How did I prepare for the topic or task? What was my learning outcome? What new knowledge have I gained? What skill have I learned or improved? Did I achieve the described learning outcome? How much time did I spend on this topic or task? Which learning activities did I take part in, alone and with others? What did I particularly enjoy or not enjoy? How was this learning process relevant for me? What did I find meaningful or even meaningless? Student self-reflection should be put into a context, and it should be a communicative process, not shouting into the void. One way of doing this is to let the students create a learning blog and post their reflections there. Hopefully, when students tell their story to others, and the endeavor makes the process clearer to themselves as well. And students can and should comment on each other's blog, although usually they will need strong encouragement to do so. Whether in an open blog or in the LMS, students can use multimedia in their reflections. A series of digital and multimedia blog posts can be edited into a digital story in the end. The editing process serving to make the students more aware of their own learning journey. And many students find it an enjoyable task as well.